as with time or gravity, it is going to be unyielding. Money is just going to do what money's going to do. You can only sell one thing: value. So whether it's a product or a service, the money that you can make by what you are bringing to the marketplace will be governed by its value, or more specifically, its perceived value. Hey you, I'm Mark, husband of one, father of three, maker of puns, climber of trees, grower of businesses, pitcher of tents, occasional cutter of cheese, word nerd, and lover of families. Oh no. Oh no, not yet. No. Oh, here he comes. Where's my oar? Showed that Kraken who's boss. At least until like 2 p.m. this afternoon. I think I'll be due for another attack by then. Let's jump into it. Hey, welcome to all of you bandits and chilies. This episode is called Toxic Money and Time. There are many types of toxic relationships that one can find themselves in. It could be a sibling, a parent, a spouse, a friend, someone from work, a neighbor, the Uber driver that you've already committed to the trip with and you're stuck in traffic on the way to the airport for the next 57 minutes. Sometimes toxic relationships can be worked through or worked out, but other times they need to be limited or even exited. But today, we're going to talk about two relationships that you cannot exit. Your relationship with time and your relationship with money. Maybe you've seen people who've had a bad relationship with time. They never seem to have enough of it. It never seems to be on their side. Basically, they are constantly fighting with it. Likewise with money. A person may never seem to have enough of it and it may never seem to be on their side. They're not so much going to be fighting with it as fighting without it. They treated their money poorly and now it's gone for a long walk and it's giving them the silent treatment. If you've seen that, been that, or feel like this now, then you'll understand the frustration and the difficulties that it can cause. Let's focus on time for a short time. What is the issue with racing against the clock? Well, the clock isn't time. It's just the representation of time, right? Time itself is an unyielding reality that waits for no man and for very few women. Having a bad relationship with time, then, is a lot like having a bad relationship with gravity. Both are universal laws that will not change to accommodate you. Therefore, if your relationship with time is toxic, you'd better get to work investing time in fixing that relationship. In a relationship with another person, there can be some negotiation, some discussion, and boundary setting. There are faults and deficiencies on both sides of that relationship, which are contributing to the issues faced. But, as with gravity, any faults in your relationship with time will be your own, and the consequences will be all on you. This is pretty rough. There's no negotiations to be had, no leeway, no boundary setting that time will abide by. Time is going to do what time is going to do. But this is also liberating because it means that you are 100% in control of fixing your relationship with time. So here's 3 exercises which can help in getting to the heart of issues of time management. But first, how many months have 28 days? All of them. Anyway, 3 exercises that can help getting to the heart of time management issues. So the first is the rocks and sand. You're probably familiar with this, but essentially if you have a bucket and you put some rocks in it and then you put some gravel in it and then you pour some sand over it and then you fill it with water, you can get the absolute maximum amount of those materials in the bucket, right? You fill it with the large rocks until it's seemingly full, and then with the gravel until it's seemingly full, and with the sand until it's seemingly full, with the water until it's seemingly full. If you take the total quantity of that out and try and do that in any other order other than biggest rocks first, all the way through to water last, being that it will work itself around everything even more than the sand, any other order, you will not be able to fit the same quantity in. So likewise with time, it's really important to prioritize the big rocks. Get those out of the way, and then other things can fit in and around it. You can make a quick call whilst you're out and about on the run in between tasks. You can send a message. That's what your second office is for. You know, the one with the little serviettes and the water feature? That one. The second exercise which can help in issues of time management is making a to-don't list. I was listening to an Alex Hormozy podcast. I actually can't remember which one this was, but it was from a ways ago. And he was talking about his calendar, his schedule. Actually, sorry, this was on YouTube. I don't know if it was part of his podcast or not. Doesn't matter. Point being, he was talking about his schedule, and one of the main points that he made was his schedule didn't look too ridiculous. There wasn't like a ton of things on there, but he said probably more important than what's on there is what's not on there. And he was just highlighting the point that everything that is not taking up the time is that's all a choice, and it's all serving the purpose of whatever is on the schedule. So getting rid of tasks that you don't need to be doing, that you shouldn't be doing, that are wasting your time, your resources, that can be outsourced, delegated, anything at all. Taking a look at your current schedule and then making a to-don't list and figuring out how to get as many things as possible off that schedule that are not serving the main thrust of what it is you're trying to accomplish with that time is going to free up more time for more of the big important stuff that is in alignment with the thrust of what you're trying to use that time for. Lastly, third exercise is to conduct an energy audit. Let's just explain the premise of this a little bit first before we get into the actual audit itself. Essentially, you can have, 2 24-hour periods that are a day, right? That are totally different for you based on your state, how you feel. If you have a really, really good day and you're getting things done and you're feeling productive and you're just feeling energized, you are going to get more done in that day compared to another day where perhaps you hadn't really planned what your intention for that day was. You weren't clear on what the next steps were. Things were getting in the way. All of that kind of stuff. It's going to bog you down, and then you're not going to feel as though you can do as much. So regardless of how good the schedule was, because in that I kind of conflated a little bit of good scheduling into the example that I gave, but I'm sure that you get the point. Regardless of how good the schedule was, if you feel better about what it is that you're doing, you'll be able to do more. So if you conduct an energy audit by having a look at everything that you're doing and just literally write this out into like a spreadsheet, list out in one column all of the stuff that you do, and then in the next column, just give it a rating, whatever it is, 1 to 10, 1 to 100, a star rating, an emoji, whatever you like. And just rate that thing. Do you actually enjoy doing the dishes? Do you enjoy mowing the lawn? Do you enjoy this, that, the other? Every task that you can think of. And then take a look at the lowest ranking tasks, the things that you really don't enjoy, the things that sap energy away from you rather than infusing you with energy. And then have a look at which of those things you could outsource or get rid of. Maybe that would involve having a discussion with your spouse and figuring out, okay, well actually, interestingly enough, you really enjoy this particular chore and I really don't. But I enjoy this thing which you hate. So, I don't know why we've been doing it this way around. Let's swap. Or it could be a case of outsourcing. You hire someone to come and mow the lawn for you, or you get a cleaner in to maintain the house, whatever it might be. It could be delegation of tasks within your team. It could be deciding to not continue with a particular project anymore. But whatever it is, in doing that audit, I aim to do this about every 3 months. I probably get to it about every 6 months, but I aim to do it every 3. But it's not a one and done thing. But by accomplishing that audit, you will see the plan for your day start to look a lot more appealing, and then that's going to infuse you with energy to accomplish as much as possible within that day. Last little point on time management is to remember the law of the duck, to make sure that you are up by the quack of dawn. All right, now let's talk about money relationships. A lot of people think of money as a man-made thing, sort of a social construct. It has elements of that, but just as the clock is man-made and yet only a representation of time, money and all of our financial systems are man-made and yet are only a representation of economics. Economics is defined as the branch of knowledge concerned with the production, consumption, and transfer of wealth, or we could say resources. Just as biology is the study of living organisms, not the invention of living organisms, economics is the study of resources. We live in a physical world with physical stuff that we need to use to make other stuff, and so economics are baked in. Your existence is not free. It requires work for you to exist. You put in some of that work, but you also benefit greatly from the work of people around you who are maintaining the power supply, producing vehicles, farming food, and so on. Work is required for you to exist. Wealth or accumulation of resources is inextricably tethered to the notion of work. We think of work and we think of being productive. Productive means producing or bringing forth the product or result of one's work. Inherently, you need to be able to trade with others, their work or products for your work or product, so that you can exist. This isn't limited to humans either, by the way. Again, it's a law, economics, the accumulation of resources. It will be partially responsible for dictating how many fish can inhabit a reef, how many deer can live in a forest, or how many lions can be in a pride. So let's talk about two things which can improve your relationship with money, given that all the same things apply as with time or gravity. It is going to be unyielding. Money is just going to do what money's going to do. It's going to play by its rules. But your relationship to it, here's a couple of things that you can do to help improve that. You can only sell one thing: value. So whether it's a product or a service, the money that you can make by what you are bringing to the marketplace will be governed by its value, or more specifically, its perceived value. What's the difference? Well, value is the core thing itself, the benefit that it can bring, the usefulness of that product or service. Perceived value is value plus or minus the impact of how it is marketed. If you market it terribly, you can devalue the product. If you market it well, you can increase the perception of value in the eyes of the market and earn more for the same thing. Now, just on that, another factor into perceived value, which is really in a lot of ways a more real thing than the value itself, which is very hard to quantify. But the perceived value is going to, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So it's going to depend on the individual person. So I've just explained it there as in terms of the product or service that you're bringing to the marketplace, but really perceived value is an individual case-by-case thing. For the same product at the same price point, someone is more than happy to pay that amount. Someone thinks it's a rip-off. Someone thinks it's a bargain, all at the same price point because of their perception of the value of that particular thing. An interesting side note on this as well is that having a higher perceived value really does improve the value of that product or service to the end user. Take, for example, an apple. Let's take the same apple sold two separate ways. If I say, here's an apple, it's 90 cents. Well, you might be happy with that. But if I say, I've got this apple from Kennedy's Orchard, have you been down there before? No. Well, you should definitely go and check it out. It's great. They have tours where they take the kids out on a little tractor trailer ride. There's a beautiful lake view. There's chickens running around. And they make all of their own homemade apple ciders, apple pies, and all sorts of stuff. The entire farm is family operated. The Kennedys have been there for like 150 years. It's a beautiful old homestead. They've modernized their farm but preserved some of the traditional methods. For example, everything is totally organic and they don't work the land so hard as industrial style farms. Anyway, would you like this apple? It's only $1.80. You paid twice as much for the same apple the second time around. However, it's fair to say that you would have an enhanced apple eating experience. All of a sudden, the apple has become an edible postcard, a delicious testament to the local farming history, the tasty crunch of family values. You feel like you're taking the tour as you eat that apple. In many ways, perception is reality, and the second sales guy in that example provided a service to the consumer there by ensuring that he would really appreciate his purchase. So the second thing, as it pertains to improving your relationship with money, audit your values against where you are spending your money. So, for example, someone might say that they really care about their health, right? But then every week they're spending $90 on junk food, right? So there's a mismatch between this belief they have about what's important to them and the actions that back that up. Well, which one is true? Which one's going to have more of the effect? Is believing that I care about my health going to negate the fact that I ate 4 liters of ice cream? Probably not. So with that in mind, that falls under the category of what I was going to put for a challenge in this episode. The challenge for you is to take 3 minutes and write down a list of the most important things to you. So maybe it's family, specific people, contributing to the community, working on your health, whatever. Then, after that, doesn't have to be consecutive, you can do that and then come back to it. Once you've done step 1, it's way more likely you're going to go ahead and do step 2. Step 2 will take 10 to 15 minutes. Have a look at the last 30 to 60 days of your bank account. Which expenses can you attribute to the things that you listed, and which non-essential expenses are just filler, or even out of alignment with the things that you value, maybe in direct opposition to them. Aim to redirect spending towards what actually matters to you. So I thought I would end this episode with a quote from a blog that I stumbled upon when I was preparing this episode, and I'll link the blog in the description. It's from a lady named Janelle Haskell, and she was describing her relationship with time when COVID hit, how that perception helped her to realize something about that. So this particular quote starts from when she's got a kind of nothing day scheduled because of COVID. And this is what she says. The familiar voice whispered to me, "You don't have enough time today. How are you going to get everything done? You really shouldn't be sitting here gazing. You'd better get to work." Now, I'll admit that normally, when this time-panicking voice speaks to me, I instantly obey it wholeheartedly. "You're right," I'd typically respond quickly, not wanting to make the voice any more agitated than it clearly already was. "I'd better get to work this instant." But on this day, with literally nothing on my calendar, I knew better than to listen. So instead, I took my rightful place as the observer and began inquiring as to why this voice was there in the first place. I just thought that was a really good quote about the perception that we can have of time, and how we think that we have so much to do. But if we don't do things like an audit of our values versus where we're spending the money, we don't do an audit of an energy audit of what we're spending our time on, we don't prioritize the rocks ahead of the sand, then we can be really stressed out, really busy, trying to get a lot of things done, but not necessarily working on the right things. And is that stress actually warranted or justified on that given day? So, I thought that was a really well put quote. That's it. Enjoy your day. Have an awesome one. Reach out to someone who's popped into your head. Check in, make sure that they're okay, and make someone else's day awesome as well. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Are you sniffing what I'm stepping in? If you're looking for a really valuable community centered around building your business, being really intentional with your spouse and kids, and if you think you can tolerate my terrible dad jokes, then join Family-Oriented Business Growers. It's awesome. There's self-paced challenges designed to help you solve key pain points within your business in short, intentional sprints. There's awesome people in there doing awesome things who have experience with stuff that can help you, having stood where you stand. You'll benefit from what's in there, we'll benefit from having you in there, you legend you, and best of all, it's totally free and also free of toxic shenanigans because we don't tolerate none of that. The mission of the group is to help 250 family-oriented home service business owners reclaim 5 hours per week for what matters most whilst growing their business this year. So jump in there and get amongst it. Join via warplan.au, that's warplan.au. Oh no. He's early. Warplan.au. Catch you in there. Ah!